How's everyone doing? Today's video, we will be diving into will the rich go to heaven? Now, I'm going to start off with a verse, and this is in Mark. It goes, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." Mark 10:25. Now, this verse clearly helps us visualize the difficulty of the rich going to heaven. This verse depicts the near impossibility of going to heaven while being rich on this earth. It begs the question, can anyone who's rich enter the kingdom of God? Picture the illustration of a giant camel actually trying to go through the eye of a needle. Seems impossible, doesn't it? Now, I believe if it truly was impossible, then Jesus would have flat out said it. The context of this verse is after Jesus finished talking with a rich young man. He had approached Jesus and was asking how he could inherit the kingdom of God. He was told to follow all the commandments, by which the young man replies that he had followed all the commands since a little boy. Finally, he is asked to give up everything he has and follow him. At this, he was very discouraged and he left. Seems not that by the young man being rich, he was a bad person or he wasn't going to go to heaven. It was the fact that he was rich and he loved his possessions, and his unwillingness to give up those possessions, to give up everything to follow Jesus, was his reason for not being saved. A poor man has nothing to lose, on the other hand, compared to a rich man. So when a poor man is asked to leave everything he has and follow Christ, it's far easier to do so because he doesn't have much to give. Now let's dive into another verse. This one is going to be in Luke. "And he raised his eyes toward his disciples and began saying, 'Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God.'" Luke 6:20. Now, Jesus specifically states the poor are blessed, for the kingdom of God is theirs. And a couple verses after this, it says, "But woe to you who are rich, for you are receiving your comfort in full." So the rich, while comfortable and able to be reliant on their money here on earth, they've already felt the full extent of the comfort they'll ever experience. That's very clear in that verse. You are receiving your comfort in full. That's a pretty startling statement for a rich person. Seems throughout the Bible, it discourages those who have comfort here on earth now. A comfort from earthly things and possessions. The comfort on earth seems to be a negative thing and obstructs someone from experiencing eternal comfort from Christ. The verses before about the poor being blessed with the kingdom of God makes you realize that the poor will be far less comfortable than a rich person here on earth. Most of us already know this. This is why most of us strive to be wealthy, to be comfortable and confident in our finances. Now, there's nothing wrong with being wise with what God has given you, but that discomfort of being poor seems foolish to endure from a human perspective. But God makes it clear that the discomfort we have on this earth now doesn't compare to the blessings it brings, such as inheriting the kingdom of God. These clear statements about the poor and the rich shouldn't be confused, though. You can be rich and go to heaven, but the chance of you not becoming reliant on money instead of God and finding comfort in money instead of God is virtually impossible. The kings of the Old Testament were rich. Let's look upon this verse in 1 Samuel. "But now your kingdom shall not endure. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you." 1 Samuel 12:14. In this verse, King Saul is told by Samuel that God will not let his kingdom endure, and he will rise to power a man after his own heart. This man we know to be King David, the same man who was once a poor shepherd boy that slayed the giant Goliath, would now be a rich and powerful ruler over Israel. Though David became rich, and with that led to comfort in sin, as we see in his affair with Bathsheba, as the story goes, he was comfortable behind his fortified walls, with everything riches could give him, and yet his eyes sought after a married woman, a woman of a man who was a soldier fighting for King David, for him. Could he have had an affair while being poor? Sure, of course, it's happened. But the comforts of being king definitely didn't help his lustful desires. Instead of being on the front lines with his men, he stayed by to enjoy the riches and comfort of being rich on this earth. This led to his adultery and the killing of Uriah, Bathsheba's husband. David, despite this, did go to heaven, though having to deal with many consequences of his sinful actions along the way, such as the death of Bathsheba's and his kid, even though he pleaded with God to forgive him, which ultimately God did, but not without punishment of the kid's death. Now, the takeaway from this whole video is that being rich alone would not send you to hell. Just because you have money doesn't mean you're going to hell. It's if you let the comforts and the reliance upon the money instead of God run your life. If you wake up, hit the ground running, chasing after wealth, that will not lead you to heaven. Earthly wealth is not something one should strive over. You should not tire yourself out trying to make another dollar. That can lead you down a difficult road and ultimately a near impossible path to heaven. And now, one final thing. I'll leave you guys with this verse. You can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad, and its gate is wide for many who choose that way. But the gateway to life is very narrow, and the road is difficult, and only a few ever find it. Matthew 7:14. With that, I hope you guys have a blessed day, and thank you for listening. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.